Back to the Weiner Wellness Virtual Summit. We are here with my good friend and naturopathic doctor, Ashley Rozzi, who actually is doing all of the free Zyto scans today. But she also works at the Weiner Wellness Center on Fridays and takes health consults every Friday if you're interested. Ashley, it's so good to have you back. We're talking about inflammation today, so this is going to be a lot of fun. But before we get into it, give me a little background on who you are, besides being one of my BFFs.
Well, thank you for having me. And this is always fun. I love talking with you, and it's always a really good time. So I specialize in nutrition. And I do customized nutrition. So I work with clients on weight loss. And a big one is this is falling out a little bit, is customized nutrition, but I'll work with clients with all healing. I know I always talk about this, healing the gut, because all illness, all disease begins in the gut. So with weight loss, it's like, what is your gut doing? And weight loss is a side effect of getting healthy. So I work with people one-on-one. I also do group wellness as well. So that's just a little bit about myself. And I'm really excited to be here with you, Tracy, and get into inflammation, because that's a huge topic.
Well, we just talked about that a little bit in the morning commentary. We were talking that, you are kind of like the expert at weight loss here at the Weiner Wellness Center. And we touched a little bit on the functional weight loss program we did with NF, where I went through the adipocyte, anatomy and, how good fat cells are really, and that we really demonize these poor little things. And it led us, to the conversation about you and how successful you are with it. You actually have your own journey. And just give us a little background, because I think sometimes, Ashley, they look at you and they think, that girl doesn't understand. She'll never know what I'm going through. Give us a little background on how you got into this.
Thank you. I had my own struggles so as a little kid, I was heavy. I mean, I was an active kid. Like, I loved, I was always outside playing, but I struggled with weight, and that sparked yo-yo dieting, and not really understanding why I couldn't eat like everybody else and I would gain the weight. And so in my own health journey, I wanted to find out how food acted in my body, what it was all about, like how my body broke it down, how I could use it for energy or store it as fat. And so it really stemmed me into wanting to help other people. So when I was even going through my own personal journey, and when I learned a lot of stuff before I even went to school, I would work with people and help them on their journey. And, I learned as much as I could on my own, and then diving into education really just expanded my knowledge in working with people on weight loss. And also, it wasn't even just about weight either. It was about how I could focus and think. And if I ate a certain way, I had a lot of trouble thinking and focusing and getting things done. And when I ate a certain way, it was like, wow, it made such a difference. So I wanted to see how food interacted in my body, and that food is not independent of how we feel. It definitely has a reaction in how we live and our productivity. So that was really my own personal journey.
Yeah, and that's a great statement. It's not independent of how we feel. Food does have a direct effect on brain health, gut health, body health, and all of that can be systemic inflammation when we're choosing the wrong foods. So, Ashley, can you just help our audience understand the difference between acute inflammation and chronic inflammation, and how we go from acute to chronic?
Yeah, so acute's like a bee sting, right? Or you sprain your ankle. It's sudden, you hurt yourself right then. Instantly, it's going to get red and swollen, and that's your body trying to heal. It's showing you that there's something wrong. Where chronic is where it gets dangerous, right? At the root of all diseases is inflammation, cancer, metabolic diseases, diabetes. So chronic inflammation is it starts out like a silent storm, right? You don't really know that you have it. Maybe you think it's just you're a little bit achy because you think, oh, I'm getting older, or you're not associating with that. It's you're inflammation's coming from most likely eating things that don't agree with your body, doesn't mean it's unhealthy. It just means maybe at that time it's not right for your body. So most of the time when people come into my office, I'm like, this isn't necessarily a weight issue. This is an inflammation issue. So let's get your inflammation down. And instantly, well, not instantly, but after the inflammation comes down, say about 10 days, they start to really notice a difference, and they start to see how much inflammation they really had, when a lot of times they think it's just a weight issue. But chronic is something over a period of time that eventually can lead into illness and disease.
Yeah, it's a great explanation. And I don't think people know that there's a difference from spraining your ankle to a chronic inflammatory response. Mm-hmm. And also that it's systemic. I think sometimes people go to the doctor, right, to that doctor, and they have inflammation maybe in their colon or inflammation in their digestive system. And it's really systemic. It's everywhere. You're not just inflamed in one place. And so some of the things you wanted to touch on today was diet and inflammation, brain and inflammation. So why don't you just take us down, whichever pathway we're going to start with, whatever you want to start with first, and get us to the root of this issue and what we can do.
So instantly, so our gut, right, the bacteria in our gut, regulates our prefrontal cortex. So, leaky gut or increased intestinal permeability also results in brain inflammation. Those two are not independent of each other. They work together. So eating things that are causing inflammation for you, or foods that aren't healthy, that are just inflammatory foods. Now, everybody's a little bit different. So what's inflammatory for one person isn't always necessarily inflammatory for another. But some foods are just inflammatory, like processed foods that carry no nutrient value. So when this happens, your gut isn't absorbing like it should, and you're getting partially undigested food circulating through the bloodstream. This starts to create leaky gut. That's what's increased intestinal permeability. And in turn, this is causing brain inflammation. And it just keeps going, and you become malnourished because you're not absorbing, but you are swollen, you're puffy. And some things with like digestive inflammation is bloating after you eat, irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, diarrhea. Those are all symptoms of digestive inflammation. And, brain inflammation, fogginess, like not being able to think, focus issues, motivation issues. Anxiety is a gut issue. It's not a brain issue. Depression is a gut issue. And all of these things in turn will keep it'll keep spiraling unless you nip the inflammation in the butt, like right away, so you can get your health back, And I'm sure, Tracy, like you probably see that a lot too with all your patients.
I do. And I just want to pause you a little bit because you said a lot, and I think let's just break it down for everybody, because that was a big connection you made right there, that when you have brain issues, you have gut issues. So I always tell people that have had head traumas, like if you have leaky brain, you hit your head, smack, you got leaky gut. You have leaky gut, you have leaky brain. So that's called enteric nervous system, right? So there is a communication between brain and gut and brain. And what you eat, it starts to stimulate those little neurotransmitters, and it tells your brain what to do. So I always equate it to, hey, if you don't believe that what you eat affects your brain, give a kid a pile of sugar right before bed and see what happens. Every parent's like, no, I'd never do that, right? Because they know that kid's going to be hyperactive. And that is a neurology response. So what you're saying is truly that what you eat defines how we think, how we focus, ultimately how we feel. I think that's a big connection for people. And if you have inflammation in your gut, then you have inflammation in your brain. So you could possibly have headaches, right? You ever eat something and have headaches? I mean, so I'm just kind of clarifying what I'm hearing from you. And you said a big phrase that said increased intestinal permeability. So I want to pause on that and just give people an explanation of what that is. So can you just tell us what that is so that people understand what those words mean?
Yeah, like I know so many people have heard of leaky gut now, and that's just like the layman's term for increased intestinal permeability. But leaky gut is basically 1 out of 2 people have it, and it's when your gut becomes leaky. Like instead of taking in the food and absorbing it, it starts to get little gaps in the barrier, and that's when toxins and viruses and partially undigested food, it leaks through and it circulates in the bloodstream, and all those toxins build up in the body, and that's when you'll see things like chronic fatigue, also fibromyalgia. I mean, if you look at fibromyalgia, it's all connected to leaky gut. Mm-hmm. So that is when you start to feel just you're not absorbing your food and you're becoming more malnourished, but you're also putting on weight, you're swollen. There's a lot of like swelling in the extremities. So those are just some symptoms too of leaky gut.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand that if something's in your blood and it hasn't gone through the digestive process and the immunological process that goes with that, because this is your immune system, guys. It's not just a portal for food. Your nasal passage, your esophagus, your stomach, your nasal passage identifies RNA viruses. It destroys them. It goes down through the esophagus. Your esophagus job is to warm things to a certain temperature so that it can be identified and destroyed if needed. Your stomach has hydrochloric acid. It's your sanitizer. And then it goes into your small intestine. Without those 3 gateways, and if it goes into the small intestine and it leaks out through those tight junctions that she's talking about, it's in your blood and it becomes foreign. And any foreign antigen in your bloodstream is going to have an antibody response. So guys, when you're hearing Ashley speak about intestinal permeability and you've been doing a diet for so long and you're really just trying to lose weight, but you can't, it may be an issue that things are leaking out and your body's having an inflammatory response, because that's what it does, right, Ash? That's the acute inflammation you're talking about. But if it stays in the bloodstream so long, it becomes chronic. Mm-hmm. Your fat cells swell. You can't lose weight, and now you're having an antibody response to foods, and you can actually develop food sensitivities, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So touch on that a little bit.
So over time, I've had clients that are pretty much sensitive to everything after many years of leaky gut, and it's like, okay, we have to take this to the bare bones, and we have to heal your gut, and then we'll start incorporating some of these foods back in that you once were sensitive to. But once you heal the gut, and you usually those foods you were sensitive to, you can now tolerate in many cases. But yeah, over time of having a compromised or dysbiotic gut, you develop food sensitivities to, and you can develop sensitivities to almost everything, even foods that seem healthy. So that's a really big one, is food sensitivities, and people are unaware of that. Like you can eat something and maybe you don't feel it in your gut, but your hands turn red or they swell and you don't put it together, but that's a food sensitivity, and it is all stemming from the gut.
Yeah, that's such a great insight, and I don't think people look at food sensitivities as problematic to weight gain, and it really is a big thing. If you suspect that this might be an issue, because this happens, that people that are on the same diet forever and ever and ever, they have leaky gut, all of a sudden what they're eating becomes a problem, because it just keeps leaking and leaking. And eventually your body's like, they haven't sealed and healed the gut. They haven't pulled those tight junctions back together. Yeah. And so it's not the diet, it's really the leaky gut that is the issue. So just understanding that you might have that you can go in and see Ashley. There's things that she can do and work with you to help restore that intestinal lining through good nutrition and certain product protocols that we use is a great thing. So Ashley, I know you're there Fridays, but they can definitely come in and book an appointment with you, right?
Yes. And, it usually takes about an hour, and I always love to look at the pH, urine and saliva, because I want to see how well is the gut assimilating. Are you even assimilating what you're eating? So I like to look at that, and how well are you eliminating? And, many times clients are like, you're always asking me about my bowels, but it tells you so much. And it's super important that if your bowels are not moving healthy, there is some type of dysbiotic gut going on. So we need to fix that and heal that and really put you on a program to optimize your health. And I tell my clients, this isn't just a diet. I want this to be medicinal. This you need to look at as your medicine because you want to feel a certain way. So let's get there. Because if this, like a sick gut, if this keeps going, it's going to be a lot harder because you're going to possibly dig yourself into some type of degenerative disease or illness. So let's be preventative and use this for a time being to get you where you need to be.
So good. Thank you. And we have some comments coming in. I had Nightshade Sensitivity. Yep, those are high oxalate sensitivities. And that went away. Then during COVID, I went completely off keto for over a year. And now the sensitivity is back going keto again. That's great. You may need to use a nutrition plan. But here's usually what I say, Ashley, and you can probably speak to this a little bit. There's no food on the earth that is bad, right? So we look at nightshades and we blame them for inflammatory factors. It's really just undigested or unidentified food in our body that becomes problematic. That leads to chronic inflammation, inflammatory response, autoimmune response. And what happens is when we pull that culprit away for a while, right, we feel better, but we haven't really fixed the issue of where it's leaking out. We haven't really fixed the issue of the leaky gut. So we put it back in and then it becomes problematic again. And we look at the food and we say, well, I just can't eat oxalates. And what happens is, over time, you can't eat anything because you have leaky gut. So at first it might be nightshades and then all of a sudden it's chicken. And then, so it keeps going down this cascade. So really at the core, guys, what she's saying is that you need to fix the gut. That's going to fix everything else because food is meant to be eaten and enjoyed. And while you can even overdo a good thing, right? We don't want to eat too many things all at once. Like a bushel of apples isn't always the best choice, but an apple is good, right? So that's one thing I hear you say. The other thing that we talked about, Ashley, was the impact on hormones. I think this is a huge issue today with women and men. We're seeing more prostate inflammation. And people think that just one day your hormones decide to go all wonky on you. Can you just touch on inflammation and how that impacts our hormone panels?
Yeah. So even in younger boys, like teenage boys, seeing higher estrogen because of eating foods that are inflammatory, eating foods that, carry excess estrogen, disrupt the hormones. So we have, the gut-brain connection, but our endocrine system plays a supporting role in the gut. It plays a supporting role in the gut brain connection. So inflammation, a lot of women think PMS symptoms are totally normal, but really, if you've noticed, and anybody who's done a really a good nutrition protocol for their body, they see those symptoms. Wow, like they get so much less and sometimes go away completely leading up to the menstrual cycle. So when you're seeing that, that's inflammation, right? If you're having those headaches before your period, or you're having that debilitating fatigue, bloating, there is some type of hormonal imbalance, but at the root of it is inflammation. So I am seeing that so much among young people as well, both young boys and girls. A lot of polycystic ovarian syndrome. And you probably see that too, Tracy, with like so many younger and younger women are having the polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Yeah, that's like the fibromyalgia of hormone issues. That's my favorite one. Like they don't know what it is. They don't know why it is. It's kind of like people that have chronic muscle fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia, right? They just give it a name because they're like, well, you're either crazy or we just can't help you. So they just give it this label. That's the same thing with PCOS. They don't know what it is. They don't know why they have high fibroids. That can be a couple of things. But yes, inflammatory factors. I usually see high candida with that. People have overgrowth of yeast, low iodine factors with that.
Yeah.
So you're looking at hormone dysfunction being from adrenal, thyroid, what Joe Messino always says, the fat axis, pituitary, hypothalamus, adrenal, thyroid, which systemically in long-term chronic inflammation then starts to go into PCOS. So you have high candida, gut dysbiosis. You have all of these layers to get to that one thing that's down here. And so we have to start peeling off these onions. And you go to the allopathic and they want to go in, they want to do surgery, they want to cut things out. For the holistic model, guys, just so you know, it takes longer, but it gets to the root. So you can, as Dr. Weiner once said, you know, the allopathic thinks that you don't have enough pharmaceuticals and too many organs, where the holistic thinks that, you know, wait, you don't have enough nutrition and you have too much toxicity. So it's kind of the model, but it does take longer. So for the people that are listening, this isn't a one-time thing. This is a journey back to health. So when you come in and you see someone like Ashley, she's going to start with foundations with you. And then she's going to start pulling off those onion layers. And you may have to come back for 4 to 6 visits. But when you're on that last visit, you will be at the root. And, you know, people have to remember that the body heals from the inside out, top down, in the reverse order of symptoms. The very first thing you walk in with will be the last thing that comes out. So we have to get to this health journey so that when you're there on that last visit and you get to fire Ashley and say, I don't need to see you anymore, you are an educated client and you know what to do walking out of there. That is the goal of how she practices, which makes you such a unique practitioner and what I love about you. So everyone should on here that's struggling should make an appointment. Ashley, could you do these virtually?
So I can, yes. I do actually have virtual clients. So yeah, we can make it work anyway, because as long as you're willing to do the work. And also, you know, I always ask, do you like to cook or will you cook? Because so many times that's usually the biggest hurdle. But if you're willing to and it doesn't have to be elaborate meals or anything, and I customize it that fits within your lifestyle. So we make it super easy for you. But, you know, if you're willing to just do a little bit of work as far as just preparing your meals, because no matter how much you try to eat healthy when you go out, you still can't control the oil that they cook in. You can't control some of the spices that are on the food. So I do ask that, you know, you do want to, you know, cook your food, but we can make it work virtual, in person. We can do, you know, a family. So the whole family's on board. So we just make it work for you.
I'm talking and I'm muted. I think it's a big thing that it's a participation. And that's the thing with the allopathic model, there's no participation. You walk in, you have symptom X, you get a pill, you walk out. It's a suppression model, right?
Yeah.
So we're just going to suppress that screaming child that's telling you something's wrong so that it can get worse and fester so that next time it's going to be even louder. Where this is more of like an accountability participation model. And I think a lot of programs fail people, Ashley, because they're outside of their expectations of what they can do in their lifestyle, their budget, and their time. And I think that's an important factor to point out is that when someone comes and sees you, you have real conversations about the fact that you're going to work with their lifestyle, with their budget, and with the time that they have. Because that's really the biggest thing that I hear is people say, I don't have the time or I don't have the money. And I understand that. Unfortunately, eating healthy and living healthy it is expensive. Someone wants me to repeat the quote from Dr. Weiner. Sure. Dr. Weiner said, he said that the allopathic model thinks that you have too many organs and not enough drugs. That was his quote. And it's always stuck with me. And also the one that Jamie always quotes where he says, your mind is like a parachute. It has to be open. And that's the thing. I mean, we have been indoctrinated to think that being fat is our fault. And I want to say a few things to that, and then I'm going to let you comment on it, right? Number one, we've been lied to about what food is, right? Because food doesn't come in a package, can, box, bag, bottle. It grows from a tree, right? Or from the ground, runs in the field, swims in the ocean, and flies in the sky. Tree, ground, run, swim, fly. That's first. So if you're not eating whole food as God created it, you're being lied to. And the second thing is, you know, we did a great injustice trying to tell people that they could burn fat, needed to count calories over chemicals. So I think people are just confused. Can you enlighten us, Ashley? Where are you different?
So that is so true. There's so much information out there, and it's overwhelming and it's confusing. And a lot of it's fad diets, like I'll do this, and it might work for in the beginning, and then you plateau, or it doesn't work, or it doesn't work long term, or it's not sustainable. So yeah, it's actually customizing what works for your body. Our microbiome, it's like our fingerprint. It's unique to you. So what works for you doesn't necessarily work for somebody else, and vice versa. So that's where I come in. We make this work for your body. What is going on? What are you absorbing? What do we need to do? We have to heal the gut first. So that's like the therapeutic medicinal diet. And I customize it for you, make it that if you don't have a lot of time, we do really easy things to make it super easy, because I completely understand my schedule's very hectic, but eating clean is extremely important to me. So I can make things work with very minimal time. And that's where it comes into. It's actually, are you absorbing your food? Are you digesting your food? Are you eliminating properly? Or, I will have clients, they will actually text me pictures of like, can I eat this? And I'm like, take a picture of the ingredients. Let me see it. And I'm like, no, because it has sunflower oil in it, or, there's an ingredient in it or too much sugar, but sugar's hidden under different names. So we really fine tune it for the client.
That's great. I always tell people if it has a label, it's probably not food.
Right?
Right?
That's so true.
That's
yeah,
an easy
like
way to determine it, right?
That is. I'm like, you want to just shop. If God made it, then you can eat it. But if it was created in a lab, let's avoid that. But that's true. Like, even people that want that, sweet thing or want dessert, there are healthy ways to do it. And they're like, wow, this is really good. And you get your body actually, you get your taste buds back, because your taste buds have been hijacked, right? For so long, thinking that garbage food's tasty. But once you start eating clean and you actually taste real food and your body loves it, you crave that food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And there was actually a study done on children, and this was a long time ago that I read this book. It was called Eating for A's. And they actually took kids and they started to, and these were like inner city kids that were from low economic areas, and actually kids that were in alternative schools for behavior issues. And they started to puree things down and put them and hide them in certain foods. And kids that had never eaten a green pepper, never had eaten anything, when they were hiding them in these foods, about 3 weeks after they started to do it, these kids would ask for these things. And what they found was that their body actually built neurological synapses after about 3 weeks for this food, even though they were never presented with a green pepper or they were hiding it in other things they were eating. So your body actually does neurologically build synapses for taste, and you can change those. I always give my Brussels sprout story. I hated Brussels sprouts growing up. Like, they smelled bad. It was like this whole thing. And now they are my absolute favorite vegetable, because I literally made myself eat them. When I was like, you know what? I'm going to eat Brussels sprouts. I'm going to find a way to like them. And I did. And sometimes we're taught like food has to be boring.
Yeah.
Like the whole, I came out of the fitness industry. My degree's in exercise science. I was a trainer for 15 years. I can't tell you how much boiled chicken, white rice, oatmeal, just super bland 5 times a day. And literally, like, I hated food. It was like the most annoying thing I had to do. But because I was in a fitness industry and I was a professional, I had to do it. Well, when I got out of that and actually learned, like you said, about what food does in your body and how you can make it delicious, and use spices and what those spices do in your body, and what good fats do in your body, like good oils. And it really like made my diet come to life. And I never struggled again with weight, because I learned the functionality of food and the nutrition of it. So I think that's really important for people to hear. It doesn't have to be boring, right?
Right. Like, oh yeah, you can make such good food and it's so clean and tasty. So many times I've had people at my house, and I love to cook. I don't always have time, but if people are coming over, I'm going to I'm going to cook something, and they eat it and they're like, this is delicious. And it's all clean ingredients. I mean, it's all healthy, from curries to, just everything. And the options are really endless. And it depends how creative you want to be or what you're willing to do or try. Because if you like a food, I promise you there is a healthy version out there of almost everything.
Mm-hmm. I make a Thai curry chicken that's awesome with real coconut milk, real organic spices, organic chicken broth. Like you can make it, and it's also loaded with good fat, highly anti-inflammatory, lots of protein, and we put it over organic brown rice. It's fabulous. So guys, you can eat healthy. You can actually have your cake and eat it too. My friend makes an all organic cake from sprouted grains, and it was delicious, like so good, and made the icing out of coconut oil, cacao, raw honey, and maple syrup. And man, it was really good. So all of that is just loaded with nutrition, guys. So you can do it. I want to know, Ashley, there's a lot of people here, okay, where do I start? What are like the top 5 inflammatory foods that you would say today, like, guys, if you could eliminate 2 of these 5, you would start to feel better? Give me your top 5. This is off the cuff. This is not scripted. So, I'm going to test you.
All right. So this is based off of like when people come into the office, right? What I see people eating. And it is and this is not even a food, but soda, like that has to go. That's one of the worst thing. It leaches minerals from your bones. It's just so bad for you. So pop is definitely a no-go. Processed meats, lunch meat, those need to go. Those are not healthy. Those are one of the worst. And I see people eating like canned fruit, like canned pineapple, that should go. You don't want to eat that. And the big thing is oils, no canola oil, no sunflower oil, no safflower oil, and no soy, no cottonseed oil. Those are really, really bad. And some of the other things is the sugar. People think like by getting like oatmeal, they think that's healthy, but then they find out there's all kinds of added sugar in the breakfast cereals. So I put those together. So basically a lot of the processed food, those are my top 5.
What about things like gluten and dairy?
Oh, when we're talking, so dairy is inflammatory. I do the Zytoscan, and a lot of times I had a client and I said, wow, I really think you have a food sensitivity based off of this Zyto. And she started laughing and she goes, actually, I do. And I've been eating dairy and I'm not supposed to. I could tell just on the Zytoscan because I'm like, this just looks like a food sensitivity. So dairy, and she goes, but I feel fine. But I'm like, your body's saying something different. Obviously you're not. Dairy is very inflammatory. And gluten, I don't see gluten good for anybody. I mean, it's not, you might not think it's not so inflammatory, but if you come off of it, you do see an improvement in your health. Those are definitely gluten, dairy for sure.
And this doesn't always equate weight gain, right? Because I mean, inflammation can harm your brain. So you could be eating gluten and you're thinking, why can't I focus? Why can't I sleep? Why can't I think straight? Why can't I recall these words? And all of a sudden you come off gluten and you're like Einstein. So guys, just remember, it's not just about the size of your thighs, but like how well your brain's functioning. So I'm going to have you walk through these and I want you to tell me why. So soda, you said, leaches minerals from the bones. Anything else?
Well, it's void of nutrients, right? And it is highly addictive. People get really addictive to pop. So it is not good for us. It's like, I will call it poison in my office. I'm like, you are poisoning yourself. So there's nothing, pop brings nothing to the table. So if a food does not give you anything, it's taking away, it's depleting. You might think it tastes good right now, but over a long term of drinking that way. I know somebody that I've known for over a decade who drank a 2 liter a day, and he is young and he's having so many issues in his back, can hardly walk, has, trying to get disability because of everything. And I keep saying, you need to come off the pop. You need to come off the pop. So I just don't see anybody, and that it benefiting anybody. It's one of the worst things you can drink. It's terrible for your teeth. I mean, the list goes on.
38.87 gallons is the average consumption of soda per person in the United States. 38 gallons.
That's painful.
It's hurtful.
Yeah.
Hurtful.
All
right. So really I know depressing. I don't drink it and you don't drink it. So somebody took our 38 gallons, right? So just keep in mind that is an easy thing to do as well. Well, logistically easy, but like you said, not mentally easy because it is highly addictive. You got the caffeine factor, the sugar factor, and then all the other things they put in there that cause a shift in neurology, like the dyes, the chemicals. So yeah, it's for our house, we never have that stuff in. Where I find the biggest challenge for our kids is when we're at baseball, because we do a lot of baseball. And, there's always snack bars. Snack bars of the universe, please have healthy options. Can we just start that? Can somebody start a healthy snack bar, please? Can a food truck like the one that is at the Weiner Wellness Center just go to the baseball field, please? I will buy from you. So it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. So we have to lug coolers everywhere we go.
Yeah, there are no any healthy options. And same, I'm like, there should be healthy vending machines.
Yes, right? Right? Absolutely.
Wouldn't that be helpful?
Or, it's crazy. So, all right, processed meats. Let's go through that. Why are they inflammatory? Why are they a no on your list?
So the nitrates, really bad. It affects the brain. It causes inflammation. Actually, nitrates can even feed cancer. And they're carcinogenic in general. So, there are ways to combat that, like taking, vitamin C, eating, if you are eating ribs, have a lot of the coleslaw with it, because the cabbage has a lot of nutrients that will block.
She's only saying that because she loves ribs. I know you.
I do love ribs.
She's sitting there eating organic coleslaw, feeling all right about herself.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, well, as long as I eat that together, we're going to take a bunch of magnesium.
Right, it would be just fine. So the nitrates and the nitrates are really precursors for chronic disease. And because of that, remember, guys, she's talking about inflammation factors. So it does start an initial inflammation in the body, and it can actually cause a mutation of cells later, from what studies have said about nitrates and nitrates. So great stuff. All right, canned fruits and veggies.
It's just, you're missing all the nutrients. There's sugar, and that's about the only thing that's still sustaining in canned fruit, and vegetables are just void. I mean, they lost all their nutrients. At least buy them frozen, when they're frozen, the enzymes and the nutrients are locked in there. So, that's fine. But canned, there's nothing going on.
So should I put them in that bag and put them in the microwave and nuke them when I get my frozen vegetables?
No, I just had this conversation. I'm like, oh, never mind. Why are you even eating them? Like, you just killed everything.
Right. But so people don't understand. I mean, the microwave, they think is just a big oven. But we heard, I think it was about 3 Weiner Wellness virtual summits ago, that Joe Messino did a great presentation on microwave radiation. And just the harmful effects of it. So why shouldn't we nuke our vegetables?
Well, I heard a story of a nurse who now I don't know how true this is. I don't know how this all, but somewhere they needed to do something with the blood, and she warmed the blood in the microwave. And when they did it, when they put it in the person's body, the person died, because, you can't do that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just going to take a minute on the story, because I don't even understand. Number one, why would you warm blood in a microwave?
I don't know. I just remember hearing this years ago, and I'm like, well, that's kind of crazy, because you heat your vegetables in the microwave. You kill all the nutrients in them. I mean, it's just like dead food at that point.
Well, it's EMF, right? Electromagnetic frequency. That's what's in MRIs. That's what's in our cell phones, the 5G towers everybody's worried about. It's what's in our x-rays. It's radiation. So you're literally radiating your food. You're mutating that nutrition that was once in there. You're oxidizing it. It's a no-no. Rip that bag open, guys, and put it in a stainless steel pot on your stove. And then, steam them, and don't
Yeah.
don't destroy them if you're going to cook them, because when you cook vegetables too long, you break down the enzymes that are in there that help you identify the nutrition in it. So raw is best. But Ash, what I find is people can't even digest raw vegetables anymore because their gut is so poorly, they have that dysbiosis, they have the leaky gut. So it does help to take enzymes like Cybezyme, or just lightly steam them. That's usually what I recommend for people. Okay, here we go. We're going to get to the big one. Oils. Going for oils.
So that's a big one. I'm definitely a stickler on, like, before that, we got to go. You can't, if you're eating all these healthy foods, but you're cooking them in the wrong oil, that is horrific to your health, because, certain oils like canola, sunflower, they actually will put bleach in sunflower and safflower oil to lighten the color. There's hexane in canola oil. It is just so carcinogenic. It will thicken the blood. Your blood will become like sludge. It's just super, super unhealthy. And many times at restaurants, they're using those oils because they're cheaper. Even go into the store and you'll find like a healthy chip, right? Like a healthy snack, and all the ingredients are healthy. And then you see sunflower oil or safflower oil. And I'm like, no, avoid that at all costs. I think, choosing a really clean oil to cook in, like avocado oil or ghee, those are actually anti-inflammatory. And avocados, and avocado oil, when you pair them with other foods, it enhances the nutrients in the other food.
Well, this is actually so good, because I don't think people understand. Canola oil was pushed on us a lot. Push. Yeah. Like they were like, oh, canola oil. You see commercials and happy families and canola oil, and they're having parties. But canola oil came from rapeseed.
Yeah.
What is a rapeseed? And with a name like that, it's kind of like Smuckers. It's like, okay, can we choose a different name? But it can't be good. So it actually came out of the industrial industry. Out of Canada, actually, and the Environmental Protection Agency. They solicited that it was a food, so if they spilled it, they didn't have to clean it up. So what happened was it actually became a food so that they didn't have to clean up these oil spills. Little fun fact. And then they were like, let's send it to America. They'll eat it. And we're like, okay. We're kind of like the Mikey of the world. They're like, let's send salt down there too that we used in industrial cleaning, because they like white. They like white bread and white sugar and white salt. FYI, y'all, they're not naturally white. They're bleached. So you're eating just some bleach, and everyone's like, oh, it doesn't hurt you. But a little bit of bleach every day, I think it's going to have an issue over time. All right, let's get to the next one that everybody loves. They heart their sugar. You're going to break some hearts here. Tell me why it's inflammatory.
Is the sugar, talking about sugar, why it's so inflammatory? Well, sugar, first off, it's inflammatory to the brain, and it does actually, sugar actually will reset our brain to become addicted to it. So just like cocaine, stimulates dopamine, so does sugar. So we become dependent on sugar, and sugar is a major cancer feeder. And, even with clients, even healthy sugars like in fruit, I don't want them eating fruit all day long. I don't want the body, it feeds candida. So there's so much. Sugar is just sugar. We eat so much sugar in this country, and we crave it. We want it. And that's one of the big things. Like when you're coming off of it, there's actually a detox very similar to coming off a drug, because it has the same effects as drugs do on our body.
Wow, that's a powerful statement for people to really think about, that cocaine and sugar both stimulate dopamine. That's why people that do cocaine, they get high and then they have really hard crashes where they're just like, oh, so depressed. Same thing with sugar. What do people do when they have that 3 o'clock crash, right? You see Snickers, it does a body good. No, it doesn't. It's bad.
Right?
Bad.
It's so bad.
What should they choose instead at 3 o'clock?
So you could do a shake, especially if you've already had lunch, but you want that snack in between. What's our calorie burner, right? Is muscle. So let's feed the muscle. I find so much that people don't get enough protein or quality protein. So have a clean shake like the Super Shake or the Whey Shake or the Power Cleanse, which you have a protein. You're actually, supporting phase 1, 2, and 3 of liver detoxification, because we are exposed to so many chemicals and toxins. So it's really good to, use things that help the liver detox and support the detoxification organs.
And I know you do a lot of shakes. So what's your favorite shake combination?
Okay, so I have 2.
You have 2?
So
all right, good.
I have 2.
Write this down, everybody.
I love the pineapple coconut power cleanse with a scoop of the lean greens because of you, Tracy. You said add the lean greens in, and I'm totally addicted to it. I love that. And another one, I like doing the peanut butter shake, and sometimes I'll make a smoothie with that. So I will do the peanut butter super shake with water, 1 cup of frozen wild blueberries, a tablespoon of coconut yogurt. Like I'll do either that cult coconut or the cocoa yolk, and then a bunch of spinach. I'll put it and blend it, and it's really good. I like that one a lot. So those are my 2 favorites.
Yeah, I love the Power Cleanse and the lean greens too. And Jamie and I actually did that. I think we were over 100 and some days. I think Jamie had like 139 days of drinking the Power Cleanse and lean greens every day. So we just had this shake a day club going. We were the only original 2 members, but now we have a bunch of people. And we just had our own club. I was like, "It's not lonely, Jamie."
We need more people to come in. I can be part of that club.
Well, you know what? Yeah, I think you'd be the president. So, but Jamie's going to be doing a presentation, guys, at the next hour on all of the shakes in the Shake a Day Club and why we started that and what good nutrition and how to optimize shakes, how to make them, even tastier than they are, because they're just good by themselves. But there's a lot of fun in that and creativity. And, removing the stigma that shakes are, all about weight loss and deprivation, all about not eating a meal and replacing it. That's not how we strategize our shakes. We actually tell them they should be part of a healthy lifestyle. They should be part of a nutrition plan. They are to fill nutrient gaps and remove toxicity. It's a whole new way of shaking up your health. So make sure you stay at 10. And then the last 2 you mentioned are dairy and gluten. And I just want to know, what did we do to these things? Because gluten is natural, it grows. And dairy is natural, and it's actually the land of milk and honey, right? Can't be bad. What did we do? What did man do to these to make them inflammatory?
So that dairy, actually, raw milk is really the only food that is perfectly balanced in proteins, fats, and carbs. But when we pasteurize the milk, we destroyed it. And now it is completely inflammatory in our bodies. And so many times people think they want the milk for the calcium, but that's not even how it works. It doesn't give you the calcium. It actually does more harm than good. And gluten, just through, genetically modifying it and the pesticides and the chemicals and just processing it. Like if you eat sprouted grain, sprouted wheat, it acts completely different in the body than gluten. And, corn actually acts the same way. Well, corn is a grain. It's not a vegetable, but it actually acts like gluten does in the body.
Say it again a little louder for the people in the back to hear you. Corn is what?
It's a grain. It is not a vegetable. And it will have the same effect as gluten in the body. So, and that's, it's funny. I didn't even mention this, but one of the big things is when clients can give up everything, popcorn is a true challenge. So I am yet to find a popcorn replacement. I found some things that I've researched, and I wonder how that will hold up. Popping, certain grains, will it be the same? Will it taste the same? But yeah, that's a big one. Clients really miss the popcorn. That doesn't seem to pass.
Popcorn is good. So sometimes, if they're going to do popcorn, they have to take it to the mindset that it is a grain, right? Mm-hmm. And at maybe while you're working with them, it's going to be inflammatory for a while. And after you get past the gut dysbiosis, they can have it once in a while. Mm-hmm. I like to make it, if I'm making it for my kids, because kids love popcorn. But throwing that bag in the microwave, guys, and popping that, it's just here's a bag of cancer. Yeah, you might as well just say, here you go. Nitrates, there's all the things. But what I do is normally get a non-GMO organic popcorn and I'll air pop it. And then I use either, organic raw butter or coconut oil with nutritional yeast and Himalayan salt. So now you're getting all your B vitamins. Now you're getting your Himalayan salt, your electrolytes, your nutrients in that. And while the popcorn may be the junk food part of it, at least it's a better step than microwaved popcorn, which is like 7,000 steps below that. So is popcorn organic? Is it healthy? No, it's junk food. It's like, let me say this too about store-bought, like yogurts, right? I call those creamy junk foods. Did you lose your mic?
I did.
So Ashley, we cannot get that to stay in your ear, but it just wants to jump out. But guys, it doesn't mean you can't ever have these things. It just means that it's in moderation, and choose organic sources, and just know that, we consider junk food tasty cakes and all that in our normal society. But when you get on the other side of health and you understand the functionality of food, you start to see that, popcorn is kind of a junk food, but it's okay once in a while, but it's not a health food. So we're just learning to differentiate. And I love what you said about dairy and gluten with the processing. So it's the processing, right? It's what man did to something that was really good and natural and in its original state, sprayed it with chemicals, genetically modified it, and stripped it of nutrients. That's why it's inflammatory. There's no original food that's bad. There's just man-made stuff that destroys it. So good stuff. Will food heal your microbiome, or do you need to combine it with supplements? That was going to be my next thing. So Ashley.
So actually, yes. So with that, I love GI Complete, because not only do I pair that with a medicinal diet, but so your brain and your muscles run on glucose, but your gut runs on glutamine. And the GI Complete powder has 5,000 milligrams of glutamine. So I just see when you pair that and you put that with a clean diet for the client, it just rapidly speeds up healing. And within 30 days, their pH will be at 6.5, meaning that they're absorbing everything that they're eating. So I do like to do a medicinal diet with the GI Complete, and adding if probiotics is always a really good option, especially if they're not taking anything. But yeah, that's one of my favorites for gut health.
Okay, awesome. Well, that really helps clarify all this for people, I think. Guys, it does come down to nutrition, diet. It does come down to optimal supplementation. Sometimes we're just such an abyss of nutrition, and we have such high toxicity that eating clean may get us to like right here, which is great, guys. It's not going to work if you don't have a good foundation. You can't build your house on a foundation of quicksand. You get good nutrition and hydration and movement and sleep and elimination and spiritual and emotional wellness. And then you add the supplements on top, and it's like this killer combo. But it's really about getting it strategic for your health, your goals, and your current state of inflammation. So come on in to the Weiner Wellness Center. Ashley's there today. She's doing Zyto scans. I know you're full, but I'm sure you could probably chit chat here and there with some people. Yeah. And the last question is, Ashley, how do you test pH?
So I test it through urine and saliva, and I just ask that the client doesn't eat anything 2 hours prior or drink anything except for water 1 hour prior. And that's, it's real quick, takes a few minutes, and we, get that tested. And I have a little chart, show you what you're absorbing and what you're not absorbing. And it's real easy, urine and saliva.
Yeah. And pH, just so everyone knows, is transit time of digestion, and every nutrient has a pH that it likes to be absorbed at. So it's not about getting to like alkaline or acidic, but having a nice medium so that your absorbability of all those minerals can happen throughout the digestive system, because your stomach's very acidic, whereas your gallbladder and, pancreas, they combine to be very alkaline. So your body has lots of different pHs as it moves through. Ashley, this has been great. How can people get in touch with you at the Weiner Wellness Center to make an appointment?
They can just call down at Weiner Wellness, and you can schedule an appointment. And I'm here on Fridays. So
great. Yeah. 412-922-WELL, guys. 412-922-9355. That is the number. And maybe Phil can put that in the chat box. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're the best. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in for this lecture. Stay tuned because Jamie Dorley is going to be doing this Shake a Day Club at 10 o'clock. That's going to be amazing. We're going to learn how to use all this nutrition strategically for our bodies. And guys, if you have an issue and you want to call in for that appointment, make that call today. Don't wait. You won't regret it, and your health is worth it.